This video is for the lab Angle of Declination. The objective for this lab is to measure our angle of declination and to figure out what magnetic pole is at the geographic North Pole. First thing, if you don't have a printer, don't worry. Just estimate, do your best, look off of the screen. I know, we're just doing the best we can in the given situation. If you were able to print out the document that's got the picture of the Earth and the little paper protractor, great, you should have cut out the little paper protractor. And in the pre-lab, I showed you how to figure out the angle of declination using the protractor. So I'm going to move on to Moscow now. To figure out the magnetic declination for Moscow, I line up the straight line that says geographic north on the paper compass with the dot that's labeled Moscow, and I'm going to use a ruler and I'm going to make sure that my geographic north pole lines up with the geographic north line on the paper protractor. Then I'm going to see, is the magnetic pole of the Earth to the east or to the west of geographic north? And it's to the west. I'm going to estimate how many degrees to the west. To me, it looks approximately 10 degrees to the west. So the magnetic declination for Moscow is about 10 degrees to the west. Next up, I have to locate Mexico City, which is down here. So I put the center line on Mexico City. I'm going to line up with my ruler geographic north. And is the declination to the east or to the west? Well, it's just a teensy bit to the west. In fact, I'd estimate magnetic declination for Mexico City to be 1 degree to the west. The next city is Tokyo. So I turn it over to Tokyo, follow the same procedure, make sure that the geographic north pole is lined up on my paper protractor with what it says. Oh, that's not lined up at all. There we go. Is the magnetic declination to the east or to the west? Well, that's to the east. And I estimate that it's at approximately 11 degrees to the east for Tokyo. Next up is London. So I locate London on my map. Once again, point the line on the paper protractor towards London, or I should say the geographic North Pole. Is the magnetic declination to the east or to the west? In my mind, that looks like it's to the west, and I estimate it to be at about 17 degrees to the west. Last but not least, Olmsted Falls. That little speck right there is Lake Erie, and so we would be right about there. So I'm going to make sure that my line is pointing towards the geographic North Pole, and it is. Our magnetic declination is to the west, and I'm going to estimate that to be at approximately 9 degrees to the west. Question number 2 asked, at what needle position does the compass you have made show its true bearings? So I'm going to direct your attention to our compass. It turns out that our compass isn't going to have its geographic pointing north needle point due north. That compass needle is actually going to be a little bit to the west, because that needle is pointing towards the planet's magnetic pole, not the geographic North Pole. So when this needle, my colored needle, is resting at our prediction, which is approximately 9 or 10 degrees to the west, it is showing its true bearings. So if I were just out in the wilderness trying to navigate with this compass and I was following the needle thinking I was going due geographic north, I would be wrong. I have to keep in mind that its true bearings, the needle's going to point a little bit to the west. So I have to compensate for that in my mind if I wanted to go straight north. as I had mentioned in the previous video, what does this mean? By definition, when a magnet on a string is dangling in Earth's magnetic field lines, the flat side that points geographic north is the north pole of the magnet. That means up there where Santa Claus lives, at the geographic north pole of our planet, it really has to be a magnetic south pole. That isn't what it says on maps when you look at a printed map. On a printed map, it's going to say magnetic north up by the geographic north. However, by definition, that's really got to be a magnetic south pole. Think about that for a while.